You are now rocking with BizMode. Let's get into BizMode. What is BizMode? BizMode is entrepreneurship at its highest level. BizMode is flow state. BizMode is that hunger pain you feel. BizMode is success by your own definition. BizMode is operating from abundance. BizMode is what you make it. This is BizMode. What up, though? I am your host, Alex Bruno. I am the founder of Bruno Group Inc., a California law firm helping entrepreneurs and businesses with their legal stuff. BizMode family, welcome back. Welcome back to another BizMode podcast. Today, I want to introduce you to Salina Mendoza. Salina is an artist, and she works with graphic art. She's a spray can artist, and she loves to work on canvases and other materials. I want to introduce you to Salina because she's the prototypical entrepreneur, the prototypical, and maybe by saying prototypical, I'm not giving her enough credit because she is the entrepreneur, but she fits the mold of a person who is really out there trying to affect the community, trying to impact the community through her art and through her other work. One thing that I wanted to you about Salina is that she is an artist, but she's also in tech. So she works and helps with product development currently with Bricks Labs, and that's what she's doing right now. And so she's able to go into both worlds, and surprisingly, both worlds are not just mutually exclusive to each other. They actually coexist, and she makes it happen. A couple takeaways from my chat with Salina is, one is when you're trying to develop a product or you're trying to develop something, you got to sometimes let things go and put things out in the world. Salina mentions that when she was trying to develop some of her products, and one thing that she's trying to currently do is artist safe spaces, which is a really cool project that she's up to help serve as a resource for her artists and actually a network for artists to express their art, but at the same time, as they deservingly should receive money from their art. So artist safe spaces is a way to, one, create the safe space for the artists, but also to serve as a resource for them. So really look out for them. And if you can support, please do it. But back to the first takeaway there was that with Salina, the first takeaway was you got to let go. You got to let go and let the product out there. There's so many components and things you want to add to a product, but sometimes you just got to tell yourself, let it go out there and we'll do it on the next iteration. Another thing that I was curious about with my chat with Salina was we were talking about how she has multiple projects. And as many an entrepreneur, we are involved in multiple projects. We're involved in multiple things. And sometimes it's hard for us to focus. It's also hard for us to complete things. But Salina gave us a very good takeaway on that, which is maximize your energy. Know yourself and know when you have that good energy time, that's the time you're going to create. That's the time you're going to produce. Don't be too hard on yourself because it's very easy for us to be very hard on ourselves. Work with the energy you have and know your rhythm and know who you are. Well, enough about what I thought about Salina. Let's go ahead and listen to her interview and we'll get in it. Hope you enjoy. Salina, welcome to BizMode.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
No, well, thank you for being on, and I'm excited to have you on. We kind of talked a little bit offline and how there's some fun things you're getting involved in or you've been involved with. But I want to start not from the beginning, but kind of introduce you to our listeners and stuff in terms of if we were just to meet on the street or something like that, and I'd say the dreaded question, at least to me, it's a dreaded question. What do you do? What would you respond to that?
What do I do? Well, I do quite a few things. One, I work in tech, so I am the director of product management for Bricks Labs. We're a software consulting and AI firm. And right now we're pivoting to a platform that we've been using ourselves. And then at the same time, I've been working as an artist and working as I won an award as a 2019 OC laureate. So that allowed me to work with different community organizations and local governments around Orange County and work with their art communities. And that has been awesome. I'm also a partner and curator at Low Key Gallery in downtown Santa Ana. And that has been awesome. We had our 1 year anniversary in,
Nice.
I believe it was June. Yeah, so during COVID, we didn't have any anniversary party or anything like that. And yeah, I'm also building artist safe spaces. So that basically conceived from my efforts as an artist, more from I couldn't find a place to practice art because I'm a spray paint artist. So I wanted to do that safely and not break the law if I didn't have to. So really trying to navigate those laws as well, even on the local level, like going even directly to the police, even to the mayor, and being like, "Hey, what's legal, what's not?" They can't even tell you. So there's being able to facilitate places, where it's designating where you can do art freely, for free. And obviously that expands to premium spaces and being able to get paid for those like opportunities to be there, and being able to help them negotiate that, and also provide the liability and all of the agreements already so they can just be able to look at it, sign it, and work together, versus trying to navigate it on your own as an artist. That's very difficult.
It's great what you're trying to do with artist safe spaces. It's a common theme, and it's been a theme for years. I want to say it feels like centuries too, where it's you're doing art to do art. You're not doing art to make a living. You should be able to make a living. That you shouldn't be doing stuff for free.
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of inspired you to kind of get to this point where you want to provide that space and provide that mentorship and kind of leadership in that?
Yeah, that kind of stemmed from, I guess, when I tried to start doing more shows, and even down to like trying to learn how to frame my art and how to put what's the standard, how you sign it, like navigating all of that was like very difficult because a lot of people wouldn't give you a straight answer. And so that's when I started blogging myself, and I started curating, and I started to see that a lot of artists had so much potential and they were just hidden. A lot of people, they just practice art and that's what they do, and they're in their space. But it takes one opportunity to be able to change your life. Like, you can have a collector that could elevate you, and immediately you can have so many collectors you can't keep up. And that's awesome. There's a line that some artists don't want to cross. Like, they don't want to make things just because people want it, like commissions and things like that. So I get that. And a lot of artists do it because they love to make art. They're not doing it to get rich or anything like that. But having the ability to do that if they want to, I think is important. And also seeing, when I started the art walk in Costa Mesa with my partner, I left my partner and that fizzled out. But I would like to be able to engage and do a version of kind of more of the online art walk. And that kind of showed me that there's a lot, and when you put together collectors and you elevate kind of everyone together and everyone comes together, you're helping them individually brand themselves, figure out their style if they're there, and not being able to like also facilitate in the conversation of anyone can be a collector. You can collect a piece of art for $10 or $50. You're an art collector. You can be at any age. I have my nephew that has, I guess, a whole wall. I need to get him more art, but just for my art, and he's an art collector. And so being able to also expand, and I think have that message that it's a fun thing, and it's not just for rich people, quote unquote. Like, it's not
right
in your elite thing to collect art. You don't need to wait till you're rich to collect an awesome art that you love. And so that kind of also brought the thought of, when you put artists in spaces where they're, it was hard to get a lot of artists to come out. I had to negotiate with people. It's very interesting working with a lot of artists, very just different personalities. It's a lot, but I enjoy it. And I see that a lot of artists are missing the business side, quote unquote, on the marketing. But if you give them that, if you help them, guide them, I had a I think it was how to build your art brand workshop, the 1888 Center in Orange, downtown Orange. And I had a group of, I think it was like 6 or 7, and all of them have been able to elevate their brand, and they loved it and asked me for a workshop further than that and going into specific topics. So it's clear that when they have the right tools that are meant for them, that they have the potential to succeed just as much as people that have more budget or more notoriety.
I really commend you. There needs to be more education to all creators and artists. And a lot of people are just creating because that's how they're inspired, and that's what kind of motivates them and drives them. But we forget that we need to be aware, we need to be educated, and it's not a bad thing. The flip side, of course, is what you said, the mass production, leading their mass production or exploiting it. So you're making a piece of art and then you make it inaccessible because you're like, why we need $1 million for this because I said so. I think it's great that you're advocating the 3D aspect of it in terms of there's the art side, there's the business side, and of course it's just creating that brand and building it. So what would be the key takeaway in terms of what a person needs to do, an artist to build their brand? What would you kind of like if a newbie, for lack of a better word, artist came to you and said, you know what, I really want to get out there, but I don't know how?
If you don't have like some type of style, especially as an artist, it's kind of hard to dictate the narrative around your brand, or at least control it to a certain extent. You need to have a certain extent of control of the narrative. And that's really hard too if you don't have a set kind of style, something that you figured out. Maybe it's like a version of, like, for example, like mine's like a version of abstract geometric art, but then I also added in these squiggly lines, and that's what I'm known for. And I was always very insecure about these lines because I wanted them. I was initially like, they need to be like sharp, straight, and very, very like OCD like, and it didn't ever pan out like that because I shake. So, and then a lot of people would comment, "Oh, like this is no, like I love this is like you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And more people started to see my art, and they're like, "Oh, hey, like I knew that was your art." And I'm like, "Okay." So, it took me a bit to figure that out, and I experimented a lot. I think that if you haven't found your style, to just experiment with like a lot of things. Really go out there and try to figure out, like, what do you like? What is you? What really feels authentic? And it's easier to be able to build a brand and a story around that when it's easy to kind of just ask you, because a lot of the part of workshop that I had was just asking like simple questions. Take a minute to think about who you are as an artist and what you do and why you do it. Just think about that. And that will be able to you can extrapolate some ideas from there to be able to create kind of your narrative around who you are, who this persona is. A lot of people create personas or stage names and stuff.
So you do have that definite identity that you have in terms of like your style. I would just say your style. What's like your favorite medium in terms of, I know you have some canvas, you have things that you've done on canvas. If anybody follows you, they know you're getting into the custom shoes stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And then you did something great that was featured in LA Times about the mural in Costa Mesa. But if you had to pick like a medium, is there one that you'd be like, you know what, I really love focusing on this?
And the murals is something that I made a priority of doing this year. So yeah, I think I had the goal of doing 5. This is my first year of doing them. I did like a test mural at my old job. So that didn't really count though, because no one saw it, only me. And then we painted over it. But yeah, I made the goal of doing 5. I guess I did 2. And it was my first time. And I I had to switch up materials literally within 24 hours. And it was my first time using chalk spray paint, but it was cool. Being able to learn to also have that flexibility to make it happen, and being able to figure out like how you're going to maintain that too, because it's also, that one was temporary. But yeah, for murals, that's what I would like to do more. But obviously, I love to do canvas art. That's probably my favorite medium, especially thicker gallery wrapped canvases. I would like to expand to even thicker than that and larger scale canvas pieces, but I need a studio for that.
And then the colors you choose, they're very, from my perspective, they're very, I guess I'll say I guess again, art is in your own, is though in your own perspective, but to me, they're very bright, they're vibrant colors. Is there like an inspiration behind that, or that's just kind of?
Yeah. So the reason why I got back into, because I did art since I was little. I just stopped doing art because I would make these cartoons, and then I had a bad kind of home situation. So it would come out in my cartoons at school, and then I almost got kicked out of school for them. Stop doing that. Focus on math. But I went back in college just because I was like in this relationship. I couldn't handle like my emotions. So I started painting, and the paint, the colors were always really bright, and I associated it with also like, mental health and mental wellness. And so being able, like having colors and having like different colors stimulate different emotions with mixing different colors and lines and movement really gets you to feel a painting. And that was basically what I was doing, was just pouring my emotions into the art. And that's why all of the art pieces have stories to them. They're basically like a mix of my experiences or other people's experiences. If we're having this conversation and you share something with me, or something's going on in the world, or some type of stimulus, then that could be something that goes into that story during that time while I was creating that piece. And so it's just a mix of, being able to reflect on one, in the moment I'm choosing the colors and doing it, but then I'm defining the lines, and then I'm creating that story based on a reflection of that time. So it gets me to also reflect and also use other people's experiences to grow too, and be able to provide a takeaway from each of those stories. And everyone takes those stories differently as well. That's what I've learned as well that I didn't know until I started talking to some people would message me. I had this one friend where she messages me all the time about like her interpretations of my stories and the pieces. And I think that's super interesting that I can write this story, and then someone takes it as, this is what I got from that. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, I mean, but that's great because you're putting something out there, and then of course you have your vision of it and why you're doing it, but also it's great to see someone be impacted by it and say, this really speaks to me.
Yeah.
But it speaks to me for these reasons, and this is what I see out of it. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned COVID early on, and I want to get back to the COVID, like just COVID in general, and how it has affected a lot of people in the creative space. Mm-hmm. What have you experienced, or what have you in your circle has experienced in terms of how it is? Because I know you can't do what you normally used to be able to do, which is you can't open up the gallery and do stuff like that, and so that affects people's ability to show new stuff. So, what's been going on from your view?
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems like generally artists that I've seen in my network, you can't really tell that they're hurting or anything like that, or if they're being affected. They'll just be posting their art and continuing to do life, and still has that positivity. But then when I'm selling my art, because I've been selling my art at 50% off and donating the profits to people directly that are affected by. And so I would contact some of my artist friends, and I'd be like, hey, how are you doing? How's it going? Would you you need some money, I sold a piece of art, I'll send you some cash. Some
Very
people,
nice.
they're like, oh no, dude, I'm doing good. Don't worry. And some people are like, oh, I just got this. So like, you should definitely give it to someone that really needs it. And that's cool. And there are some people like, yeah, oh my gosh, you're coming in so clutch. And one person was crying. And so, generally I don't see them outwardly, struggling. But when you're messaging them and when you ask them how they're doing, and if you have some money, or buy it, even just buying a piece, you can see it. They'll probably message you and be very thankful. And it's just because every dollar matters right now. You really don't know, if you're going to be able to do. You can do still gallery shows, but I don't think it's the same experience. And there are some places that are opening up. So I think artists that can get creative, there's a couple barriers, but if they can get creative and being able to send their art to other places that are opening up, they would be able to sell their art over there. But that gets costly. So yeah, it's very interesting. A lot of institutions, it seems, are getting most of the money for like grants and stuff. I know we have artist grants, quote unquote, but I haven't seen many people get them, at least not in my network. So
yeah, it's tough because it is a situation where the money's not being spread the right way, and I think it happens. It's across industries, whether you're an artist or something else. Yeah, so it is unfortunate. Like you said, it's not going to the right places, but you also mentioned there's ways to support, so people can, buy piece directly, and there's a lot of good art out there.
Yeah, just go to their website. Like, even if just go to their Instagram, you like something, just message them, say, hey, I want to buy this.
Part of your passion is to pursue this art and to continue doing this art. But then you also have this other gig of being in the tech space. When you look at it, what is like a big similarities that you see from the two?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was thinking about that actually this morning, because for me, I've been in tech for 10 years now. It's been a while. I'm still young though. I'm 28. But ever since I was 18, I've been in startups. For me, and I went to business school and I studied entrepreneurship. And for me, it was personally important. It wasn't required by my school, although it should be, that I started my very first startup in college. So I did that. And I eventually gave it away to competitors, but and they were cool, and they were a team of lawyers. And then eventually died. Rest in peace. But so for me, I've always been interested in startups, mainly because, and in tech, because it provides, this opportunity for me. I love building products. So yeah, working on products and building products has always been a passion of mine. My very first product design was like a sketch of this. I guess it was before the Keurig, but I like to have like my hot chocolate. My mom loved her tea and my stepdad loved coffee. So I wanted to be able to we only had one microwave, and I wanted to be able to make everything all at the same time. And so that was my thought. And so I did it. And we literally have one of those, these days now, which is pretty cool. But I grew up without cable and stuff. So I would always, and I have ADHD, so I would wake up super early. It was gnarly for my mom. And I would be up at 5 a.m. and I would be looking at these reruns. So it would always be like car commercials. But then there would be this inventor kit that would come on. And I'm like, oh, what? You can make stuff? Yes, let's do it. But I could never afford that thing, and my mom would never buy it. So then when I became an adult, I discovered entrepreneurship at college. And I initially went to school for accounting. And before that, I wanted to be an actuary. Yeah, an actuary.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, and math has always been my passion. I think it was in second grade. I was recognized by Johns Hopkins University for being the top 3% in the nation for mathematics. So I went to see their CTY program. on the scholarship, of course. And so that was cool. I've always been very passionate about math. And that applies to what I do now in AI. And I think it was my second startup that I made was an AI product. And so for me, I have this special thing for AI because, I've always loved statistics. A lot of AI has to do with statistics. And I love building products. So it mixes, the best of both worlds for me. And I wasn't able to practice art, even though, even like my family now, like my dad, I talked to him recently and he's like, it's really cool what you're doing, And I'm like, okay, what else? And he's like, and like, where did all this come from? Like this art stuff, and he's just so baffled. Like, what are you in tech or are you looking at art? And I'm like, why can't I be in both? He's
Right.
just can't, Latino dads. Like, what do you do even? And then now you want to do art? Like, yeah. So doesn't understand it. So I don't know. I haven't been able to practice art growing up. And so now I get to do both. For me, working in tech, I get to build products and be a part of different kinds of builds. And now that we're pivoting to our own platform and more of a talent as a service model, I also did recruiting. And so it blends a lot of the things that I'm passionate about and being able to influence at a higher scale. And yeah, with Artist Safe Spaces, it blends both of that too. It's a nice extension because for me, like right now, I'm building out like the first MVP and definitely have had to make compromises of what I can and cannot have in this first version, which is fine. And I'm doing it so no code. And so I'm learning how to build this rapid functional, semi-scalable, has a dynamic content system. And so I'll be able to, scale with that. But that could be something a new way that we can teach people at my current job how to build rapid MVPs or at least rapid prototypes that we can offer as a service or that we can use to be able to help people on the platform figure out who they need to build out and what they need exactly. So
now I understand why when you first said you wanted to be an actuary, that you like statistics. So it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And for those out there who don't know what an actuary is, just look it up.
It's gnarly. Yeah. My whole thing was in high school, I took this test and it said one of the first jobs it recommended to me was actuary. And I was like,
oh, wow.
What's this? And then I just look at the dollar signs of the salary, like starting off, and it said $100,000. And I was like, I'm sold. We're going to go to college for that. And then that was my thought. That was it. Even I have a video actually, I think it was on Instagram that I put, where I'm in 5th grade and I'm saying at my graduation that I want to be a accountant for Intel computer chips. Literally. It was interesting. But my dad worked for Compaq back then, which became HB.
Okay. I remember.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, he was a hardware engineer.
I might have had a Compaq way back when.
Back when. And then before that was like Tandem. Yeah. He was part of that too.
Oh, wow.
Way back when.
So you mentioned that you have to let go of certain stuff when you're developing.
Yeah.
Is there like is there a method you utilize to kind of, say, you know what, I really would like to have this aspect or this thing as part of this product, but it's not time yet. I really got to let it go.
Right. So you would usually kind of just start with user stories. So when you're sitting down and writing or typing, what is it that you want the user to accomplish and do? Writing out that and sticking to that. So when you have those user stories and you're building out your product or your first MVP, that you're essentially going back to those initial thoughts of, okay, when I'm having trouble with this, or I'm trying to cut out, so this is, I could get this done faster. I'm looking to look at all the elements or all the functionalities and be like, is this necessary? Like, does this accomplish anything? Like, if I take this out, is this still going to be true? Like, and that's what, is really the best way to navigate cutting out those unnecessary things, because it's all about priorities, right? It's not that thing isn't a priority. Not adding that later isn't a priority. It's just that our priority is, for example, with artist safe spaces, my priority is being able to have the search capability on a map to, if you type in your location and it comes up with the dynamic locations on the map with the content. So for me, the user story there would be the user can search on the map for using their location. And then user can see locations, content, and that's it. And so those are the things, some of the things that I'm focusing on. So I make sure that I have that map element, that I have that search capability, and that I have that dynamic content. So if there's like some cool little transition things, or like different capabilities that I'm like, oh, well, that sounds cool, but like we'll do the next version because it's not necessary. It's not a requirement.
Right.
But, yeah. Nice to have. So.
I admit I'm one of the worst people when it comes to, I would use the phrase multitasking or the term multitasking, but it seems like you have a knack of, being able to kind of do a bunch of things. What helps you be able to have these multiple projects going on?
Yeah, I think for me, it's all about balancing like your energy. Like everything requires a certain amount of energy. And for me, like I started doing this in college just because I think I've always been an athlete, and in college I worked out 3 times a day, and now I don't do that. And no, I think that definitely affects my ADHD and my ability to focus. And so I have to balance out and plan for those surges of focus. And sometimes it's early in the morning, sometimes it's really late at night. And I definitely can plan it that way, but when I have these surges of focus, I want to be able to take advantage of as much stuff as possible that is important. So I'll just break it out, because when I also lose focus in things pretty quickly. And so doing a variety of things keeps me interested in all of them.
It sounds like you at least have an understanding of where you're at, physically and mentally and energy wise, which is important, because a lot of us we're just plugged into, well, this is what the schedules tells me to do, so I'm going to try to do that, and I'm trying to fit that mold, as opposed to understanding what your rhythms are, so to speak. Yeah. And I'm gonna flow with it. So when it's time to flow, I'm flowing, and when it's not, that's okay.
Yeah, take a break. Yeah, like I think that's really essential. That's changed a lot of things, and also my output is just, instead of trying, because I have a lot of trouble myself with, I can get a lot of complex things done, but a lot of, for me, simple things is really hard, more because it has to do with like executive function. And so I like to make sure that I'm trying to structure, but not limiting myself too much. And this way, it's, if I have this planned, but you know what, I'm gonna do something I enjoy first, and then I'm gonna go into it. And it helps me get back into the mood and be excited about it. So I have better output. Other than that, I'm just going through the motions, and I'm not going to get as much stuff done. So sure. I like efficiency. And I found it's a lot more efficient. And some people would be like, that's inefficient. And no, because I can get a lot of things done in a small amount of time than normally not doing that. So that's kind of how I gravitate.
It's good. And I mean, it's refreshing also to let people, kind of let people know that, you really gotta, it's us understanding who we are, and what
how can we optimize?
Yeah.
And only you, so to speak, is going to know how you work. So
Yep.
that's really cool.
Thank you.
Who's inspiring you right now, or what is inspiring you right now?
Interesting. Very interesting question. What is inspiring me right now? I guess I would probably go back to like my art right now. And for me, I think it's more of like a nostalgic period. I think being in this like pandemic makes you more reflective. And I'm meeting a lot of people that remind me of my roots and a lot of the kind of like past that I like left behind when I had moved from LA to Arizona when I was how old was I? I think I was like 13. And I escaped some really bad situations, and then I eventually moved back for college at Chapman. And a completely different person, completely different situation. And so seeing like the parts of my roots that are still there in people, and I can see it, I can feel it, but it's not in like a negative light that I had experienced it before. So I think that's probably the biggest, I think going back to what's inspiring me the most is that. So it's getting me to kind of reflect, also to get me to accept, that parts of me will always still be there. And that's what gets me back to, I guess, the sneakers. That was one thing. And I appreciate it. I could see it, and I can kind of mold it and create it in my new light with art and being able to, I've always wanted to make my own shoes. So that's cool. I remember I think it was in high school, I would draw out, because I did graffiti and stuff. So I would draw out like shoes, like I would trace the shoes, and I would draw design my own colors and stuff like that. So I'm essentially doing that now, but with paint, and actually doing it. So that's pretty cool. Because, as an artist, you learn all these different new cool skills, and definitely want to take up fabricating, but being able to take the things that are more like reflective, more nostalgic, and bring them back into like your world and like recreate kind of new memories with it. So I think that has been big inspiration.
Thank you for sharing that. And then like you said, fabricating. So you're talking about making your own like shoes, like from.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool. I honestly personally want to learn fabrication because I have this really awesome, I think it's like either the 70s or the 80s type of like chair. It's like round and like a swivel, but it has this it's awesome. But my cat just like owned it and just has scratches all over, and it has like the fox leather going on. So when it gets scratched, it's not good. So, but I love it. It still has its form. And I guess I watch I don't watch much like consistent shows, but when I find something I really like hyper focus on it until it's over, and then I'm done. And one of those things for me has been when they create cars, like they take junk cars and they make it absolutely beautiful and fabricate everything, and then being able to create like cool seats, and you see that they just take like these junk seats and like refab, and I'm just like, dude, I gotta do that, I gotta learn how to do that, man. So I want to do that because I want to bring that back, the chair back to life. But it would be something I can cross over to, like maybe I've seen restoration where you can do like shoe restorations, and that would be cool, So
yeah, that'd be super cool. I mean, a friend of mine, she went out. Her and her husband went to, they went to London a couple years ago, and there was a person there that basically you took a workshop where you learned how to make your own shoes.
What?
And so super cool. I'll get you the link.
Cool.
So you can check it out. But it was super cool because she ended up with her own pair of shoes that she crafted herself, which is really cool. So shout out to my friends Noelia and Ed on that one. So really cool. Yeah, I mean, it's always cool to take something old and then like put your spin on it, so to speak, or bring it back. So that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, like what is next for you? You kind of mentioned, maybe we can talk more about, artist safe spaces some more, but like what's going on for you?
Yeah. So artist safe spaces. Yeah, I'm working on, the first MVP to be able to kind of do the first activation, if you will, in I guess mid-October. But other than that, I would want it to be a bit more available with a lot more spaces, probably by the end of November. I think once it is fully functional, people can see it, people can use it, and it'll be a lot easier to approach people. Although, to be honest, I haven't really approached many people, but when I do talk to people about it, they are sharing with other people, so that's cool to see. I'm very honored for other people to want to share that and be as passionate as I am, and I really got to see what that impact is when I recently did that mural and on the street in Costa Mesa, and we did the final kind of finale, and the council member for that area paid for mariachis to come, the local mariachis.
Oh,
So
very cool.
so they performed like in that corner of like that intersection in this parking lot, and it was like the perfect area. And it's just, when I arrived and I saw it, it was awesome because it was like, this is exactly what brings the communities out to mingle and communicate and buy, tacos and go to places that you wouldn't go to, and, be able to just experience culture and be able to experience different artists like that. That is for a perfect example of what an artist safe space would be. That area that they were performing would be like a designated area that they know that they can go and play, or they can do live art. There was people at a different intersection apparently while this mural was going on, and they were playing. It was I think 2 or 3 guys or boys, and they were all playing I think it was their cello just at the corner. And it was just perfect. So being able to facilitate those places so that people know they can go there, and you can activate them, you can market them, you can market even the people that are there. And it was cool because some of the community members came out, and I talked to this couple, and they came out and they got tacos at this new place that they were like, yeah, we saw this, then we might as well just get some because, we haven't been here yet. And now we're talking to you, and, we meet the artist. That's cool. And they're just like, yeah, so are you guys going to do this like every week? And I thought that was awesome, because I was like, well, that's kind of like eventually what we would love to do is have people out here all the time. And they're like, yeah, like this is a city of the arts. And then he was like, yeah, this mural should be permanent. And I'm like, I know, but baby steps.
Baby step, right?
Yeah. Costa Mesa is very, very formal and they very much control a lot of things that, it's hard to have an arts community, needless to say, when, there's so much control. So we're pushing the boundaries. So we're able to do that with this, with this mural for sure. And it definitely won't be the last. So I definitely was good to hear people from the community saying, hey, I really want, I want more arts, we're the city of the arts. And I'm like, I'm preaching that all the time. And that's so great to hear that from you. Like, if you could just tell everyone that and you're all demanding that, then I'm sure we'll have a lot of change. So I hope to be able to kind of inspire the community and each different community the Artist Safe Space is working in. So
thank you for sharing all of that in terms of, the Artist Safe Spaces and what you did in Costa Mesa. And hopefully, like you said, it will continue that's the first seed, and they'll continue to grow. Anything else that you think we should chat about?
No, other than you definitely should think of buying an art piece this weekend from an artist that you know.
Nice. I like it. Yes, definitely buy some art. But everybody
Yes.
buy some art. So people want to buy some art, and maybe from you even. How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can go on my Instagram. It's just Salina Mendoza Art, or you can just go to salinamendoza.com, or you can Google me, and you can find videos and things like that there too, if you want to check that out. But yeah, just my name. It's Salina Mendoza.com.
Nice. And then we'll make sure we'll have that in the show notes so people can get to it. Salina,
Perfect.
thank you so much for sharing your journey with us.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. And if you're listening to this and want to contact me, please DM me. I answer all my messages.
Very cool. All right. Thanks again. And of course, we look forward to hearing and seeing you soon.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon.
Right. Until next time, BizMode family, this is your host, Alex Bruno, Bruno Group Inc., BizMode Podcast. Keep your family first. Always strive for perfection. Don't forget, none of this is legal advice. By the way, what happened to peace? Peace.